Be honest with yourself for a second. When someone shames you, a joke, a look, a comment, do you really move on? Or do you replay it later? What you should have said, what you need to prove, how to make sure it doesn't happen again. If that sounds familiar, this video isn't for everyone. It's for people who are tired of being moved. If you've ever wondered why this keeps happening to you, listen carefully. Everyone tells you to ignore people who shame you, to be mature, to rise above it. So why does it still burn hours later? Why does a single look, a joke, a comment, stay lodged in your body like a splinter you can't remove? You know what nobody says out loud? That the advice to just ignore it is a lie sold to keep you quiet. Shame isn't some emotional overreaction you need to fix. It's a control mechanism, and the people who use it on you aren't doing it by accident. They know exactly what they're doing. Every time someone shames you, they're testing something. Not your strength, not your character. They're testing whether you'll rearrange yourself to fit back into the box they need you in. And when you defend yourself, when you explain, justify, prove you're not what they said, you just confirmed they still own that piece of you. The reason shame destroys you isn't because you're sensitive. It's because you're still playing a game where their opinion gets to rewrite who you are. And the sickest part, they don't even need you to agree with them. They just need you to react. What if the real way to destroy someone who shames you makes them look insane for even trying? Shame didn't evolve to make you feel bad about yourself. It evolved to make you behave, to stop you from stepping out of line, to remind you without a single word that some people get to decide what's acceptable and some people don't. It's not personal, it's positional. When someone shames you, they're not reacting to who you are. They're reacting to the threat of who you might become if you stop caring what they think. That's why it works on confident people. That's why it works on people who know better. Because shame doesn't ask for your logic. It doesn't need your agreement. It just needs one thing, for you to move, a pause, a flinch, a need to explain yourself, that's all. The moment your internal map shifts even slightly to accommodate their judgment, the hierarchy is confirmed. You're back where they need you. And they didn't have to convince you of anything. You've been taught that destroying someone who shames you means embarrassing them back, exposing them, winning the argument. But all of that keeps you inside the same game. The most dangerous thing you can do to someone who shames you isn't louder, it isn't smarter, it's making their weapon land on nothing, so stay here. The biggest mistake people make when they feel shame is thinking it's about them, that they did something wrong, that they're too sensitive, that if they were stronger, smarter, more secure, it wouldn't land. But shame never starts with you, it starts with an expectation. Someone somewhere decided what you should be doing, how you should be acting, what role you're supposed to play. And when you step outside that invisible boundary, shame is the correction, not because you failed, because you moved without permission. Think about the last time someone shamed you. What were you doing right before it happened? Chances are you were taking up space you weren't supposed to, speaking when you were expected to listen, succeeding where they needed you to struggle, refusing something they thought you'd accept. Shame doesn't punish bad behavior, it punishes unauthorized behavior. That's why it feels so personal, because it is personal, just not in the way you think. It's not about your worth, it's about your position. And the person using shame on you, they're not doing it because they're cruel. They're doing it because something about you made them feel like the order was shifting. You threatened something. Maybe their status, maybe their certainty, maybe just the quiet agreement that they get to define what's normal and you don't. And the moment you feel that burn in your chest, that need to defend yourself, that urge to prove they're wrong about you, you've just accepted the premise. You've agreed that their opinion is the courtroom and you're on trial. Can you see or maybe feel it happening with you, right? That's the trap. Shame doesn't need to be true. It doesn't even need to make sense. It just needs you to respond as if it matters. And once you do, you've handed them something you can't take back. You've shown them where you're still soft, where you're still negotiating who you're allowed to be. The person who shames you is depending on you. They won't admit it. They might not even know it. But without your reaction, the whole thing collapses. Not your anger, not your tears, not even your defense. Just one thing, proof that something moved inside you. A pause before you speak, a shift in your tone, a flicker across your face that says you registered it, that you're now operating around it. That's all they need, because shame isn't designed to convince you of anything. It's designed to show everyone watching, including you, that they can still make you recalibrate. And you always do. You don't explode. You don't crumble. You do something far more effective. You begin negotiating, internally, silently. You start building a case for why they're wrong, why you're not what they said, why your intentions were different. And while you're doing that, while you're organizing your identity into a defense they'll never even hear, you've already lost. Because the trial was never external. It was always in your head. And the moment you showed up to argue your case, even just to yourself, you confirmed that their courtroom exists. They didn't need to convince anyone. They just needed you to treat their words like something that required an answer. That's the part that nobody tells you. Ignoring shame out loud while it rewrites you in private doesn't do anything. You can stay silent, you can walk away, you can keep a perfect poker face. But if you spend the next 6 hours mentally defending yourself, recalculating how you'll act next time, adjusting to avoid giving them ammunition again, you're still locked in. The weapon didn't miss. It just went deeper than anyone could see. And the worst part, they don't even need to watch you break. They just need to know you're still listening. You know what gives shame its power? The split second you decide to respond. Not with anger, not with a comeback, with something quieter, something automatic. The moment you feel the need to clarify, to correct the record, to make sure they understand you're not what they just implied, that's when it locks in. You think you're protecting yourself. You think you're setting things straight. But what you're actually doing is way more dangerous than that. You're showing them the wire they just tripped. Every explanation is a map. Every defense is a blueprint. You're teaching them exactly where you're vulnerable, what words make you scramble, which accusations force you into damage control mode. And they don't even need to believe what they said. They just needed to see you move. Most people don't realize they're doing this. They think justifying themselves is normal, reasonable, the mature thing to do. But maturity has nothing to do with it. This is pure reflex. The same reflex that kept your ancestors from getting exiled, that kept them fed, that kept them alive. Your brain still thinks social rejection is death. So when someone threatens your position, even with a joke, even with a look, your system treats it like survival. And survival doesn't wait for logic, it just reacts. That reaction is what they're counting on. Shame doesn't work by being true, it works by being fast. Faster than your thinking, faster than your filters. It slips past everything rational and lands directly in the part of you that's still afraid of being cast out, of being alone, of losing your place in the order. You can spend 3 days building the perfect response. You can win every argument in your head. You can prove beyond any doubt that they were wrong about you. But if you're still trying to prove it, they already got what they came for. There are 2 kinds of silence after someone shames you. The first kind is the one everyone recognizes, the clenched jaw, the swallowed rage, the quiet that screams, "I'm holding back." That's not silence, that's suppression. And everyone in the room can feel it, including the person who just tried to shrink you. That silence still feeds them, because you're still playing the game. You're just playing it internally, white-knuckling your way through the interaction while your mind tears itself apart, building defenses they'll never hear. That's not power. That's a leash you're holding for them. But there's a second kind of silence, the kind that doesn't come from restraint, the kind that happens when something inside you stops recognizing the attack as relevant. Not because you're pretending, not because you've convinced yourself it doesn't hurt, but because the place where shame used to land doesn't exist anymore. Most people never get there. They think the goal is to resist the feeling, to build thicker skin, to train themselves not to care. But resistance is still engagement. Thick skin still registers the impact. Not caring is still a reaction to caring too much. What destroys shame isn't a better defense. It's the removal of the target. Shame is like a key. It only works if the lock is still there. And for most people, that lock is the part of them that still believes other people's judgments get to redefine who they are. The part that still thinks identity is something you defend, something you prove, something you negotiate based on who's watching. That's the lock. And the moment someone shames you, they're testing whether it still turns. They don't need you to break. They don't need you to agree. They just need the faintest click, the smallest sign that somewhere inside you're still checking their opinion against your sense of self. If that mechanism is gone, shame becomes noise, irrelevant, almost embarrassing to witness. The reason shame hurts the way it does has nothing to do with the words themselves. You've been insulted before and laughed it off. You've been criticized and barely flinched. But shame? Shame doesn't just sting. It collapses something inside you, and the collapse happens so fast you don't even catch it. That's because shame isn't attacking what you did. It's attacking whether you still get to belong. Belonging isn't some soft concept. It's not about being liked or accepted. Belonging is the confirmation that you're still part of the continuation, that you still matter in the structure, that your existence is still woven into something larger than yourself. Shame threatens that at a level your body understands before your mind does. When someone shames you, what you're really hearing isn't "you're wrong" or "you messed up." What you're hearing is, "you might be removable. You might be the kind of person people can do without." And that threat, even when it's wrapped in a joke or buried in a tone, triggers something ancient. You don't just feel embarrassed, you feel erased. That's why you can't think your way out of it. That's why logic doesn't help. That's why all the rational self-talk in the world, they're just insecure. Their opinion doesn't matter. I know who I am. None of it touches the wound. Because the wound isn't intellectual, it's existential. Your brain isn't afraid you'll be humiliated. It's afraid you'll be exiled, cut off, left outside the circle where resources, safety, and human contact exist. And in the environment your nervous system was built for, exile was death. So when shame lands, you're not overreacting. You're responding exactly as designed. The problem isn't that you feel it. The problem is you've been conditioned to think the feeling means something true, that the pain proves the accusation, that if it hurts this much, you must be guilty of something. You're not. So what actually stops shame from working? Not a better comeback, not a stronger boundary, not winning the argument or proving them wrong or making them feel smaller than they made you feel. All of that keeps you in the same structure. You're still operating inside a world where their move mattered enough to require a counter move. What kills shame is simpler and way more unsettling. You stop renegotiating yourself. Most people don't even realize they're doing it. Someone says something, and immediately, not even consciously, you start adjusting. You replay the interaction. You think about how you'll act differently next time. You make small internal edits to avoid giving them another angle. You tighten up the parts of yourself they just poked at. That adjustment is the infection. That's where shame actually lives, not in what they said, in what you did after they said it. When someone shames you and nothing inside you shifts, when you don't defend, don't deny, don't absorb, don't rearrange, shame just falls. Like a sentence spoken in a language you don't recognize. It's still sound. It's still aimed at you. But there's nowhere for it to attach. This isn't about pretending you don't care. It's not about numbing yourself or building walls. It's about something way more specific. You stop letting other people's frameworks become the reference point for your identity. You're not arguing with them. You're not dismissing them. You're just not using their opinion as the mirror anymore. And without that mirror, shame can't find its reflection. The person who tried to shame you will feel it immediately, not because you clapped back, not because you put them in their place, but because their words landed in a vacuum. They threw a punch and hit nothing. And that absence, that refusal to participate in the emotional transaction they initiated, is more destabilizing than any insult you could throw back. They didn't just fail to hurt you, they failed to matter. When shame fails, something strange happens to the person who tried to use it. They don't get angry, they don't escalate, they just stop making sense for a second. There's a pause, a confusion, like they just pulled a lever that's always worked before, and this time nothing moved. And in that moment, something shifts that they can't name. They expected resistance, they expected defense. They were ready for you to fight back, to justify yourself, to show some sign that their words rearranged something inside you, but you didn't give them any of that. You just stayed exactly where you were, and now they're the only one still holding the weapon. That's when the power structure inverts. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, in a way that makes them feel suddenly unnecessary. They didn't lose an argument. They lost relevance, and relevance is worse to lose than respect, because at least disrespect confirms you still matter. Irrelevance means you never did. Most people think destroying someone who shames you means humiliating them back, making them feel what they tried to make you feel. But humiliation still keeps them centered. It still makes them the point. You're still organizing your actions around their existence. What actually destroys them is being treated like furniture, not with contempt, not with dismissal, just with the kind of neutral non-response you'd give to a sound you didn't recognize. Present, but not processed. Registered, but not internalized. They'll try again. They almost always do. They'll say something sharper, push harder, go for a deeper cut. Because now they're not trying to shame you. They're trying to prove they still can, that they still have the ability to make you move. And every time you don't, every time their escalation lands on nothing, they're the ones who end up displaced, not humiliated, not defeated, just increasingly aware that the role they tried to play no longer exists. So what does it actually mean to destroy someone who shames you? It's not what you think. It's not revenge. It's not exposure. It's not making them hurt the way they tried to make you hurt. All of that still gives them exactly what they wanted. Proof that they got inside. Destroying someone who shames you means something colder than that. It means making the role they tried to force you into impossible to occupy. They needed you to be smaller. You didn't shrink. They needed you to explain yourself. You didn't speak. They needed you to rearrange who you are based on what they said. You stayed exactly the same. And now the entire interaction they built in their head, the one where you scramble, where you adjust, where you give them the satisfaction of mattering, never happened. They're not standing over a defeated opponent. They're standing in an empty room talking to themselves. That's what destroys the mechanism, not the person, the function, the thing they were trying to be in relation to you. Most people never get this. They think destruction has to be visible. It has to hurt. It has to leave a mark. But the most permanent kind of destruction is the kind nobody sees. It's when someone tries to activate a dynamic that just doesn't exist anymore. They can't shame you because the part of you that used to negotiate your worth based on external judgment isn't there. They can't reposition you because you're not operating inside a hierarchy where their opinion determines your place. They can't humiliate you because humiliation requires you to believe your value was ever tied to their perception. You didn't fight them. You didn't outsmart them. You didn't prove anything. You just stopped being available for the role they needed you to play. And once that role is gone, they're not your enemy anymore. They're not your critic. They're not even your problem. They're just someone performing for an audience that already left. Shame only survives where identity is still negotiable. When you stop bargaining with who you are, humiliation dies quietly. Not because you fought it, not because you rose above it, but because the ground it needed to stand on disappeared. Most people will never understand this. They'll keep defending themselves. They'll keep trying to win arguments that were never about truth in the first place. They'll spend years carrying around the weight of comments that should have dissolved the second they were spoken, But you don't have to be most people. The next time someone tries to shame you, don't fight back. Don't ignore it. Don't prove anything. Just notice whether something inside you moved. Notice if you started rearranging. If you did, stop. Not because it's weak to care, but because their opinion was never the foundation your identity should be built on. If this hit you differently than you expected, don't just move on. Send this to someone who needs to hear it. Like this video. Subscribe if you want more ideas that actually shift how you see things. And drop a comment if you've ever let someone's words rewrite you when they had no right to. You're not here to be smaller. Stop acting like you are.